This episode of the Digital Desperados podcast is brought to you by SaferNet VPN, found online at safernet.com.
Hey, welcome to the Digital Desperados podcast featuring dark tales from the web. Patrick McMurphy back again today to tell us another dark tale. And of course, he's brought to you in fullness and all of his greatness by Brad Hawkins, the founder and CEO of SaferNet. Online at safernet.com. I'm Jim Brangenberg, and I'll serve as crowd control story guide, one of those titles. Just remember that SaferNet is there because someone's always watching. How else would they know what to advertise on the side of your screen? Stay safe while working online with SaferNet. Our easy-to-use cybersecurity app keeps businesses protected. Experience VPN, internet controls, virus protection, 84 web filters for a distraction-free online environment. Get secured now and keep the bad guys out. SaferNet.com. That's SaferNet.com. All right, Patrick McMurphy, which dark tale are you telling us about today?
Well, today, Jim, I want to talk about someone who I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and that is John McAfee, the founder of McAfee Antivirus. He is considered a legend in the tech scene, but his story is about as wacky as he was.
Wait a minute, we're talking about bad guys. Digital Desperado, but now you're talking about McAfee? I mean, isn't McAfee a good guy like Norton?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what John.
All right. I'll let you tell the
story.
That's amazing. Everybody knows about McAfee Antivirus, so this will be fun to hear.
Absolutely. So John's born September 18th, 1945 in Cinderford, Gloucestershire, in England. I only know how to pronounce Gloucestershire correctly because about 15 years ago, I was up on a bus out there, fell asleep and wound up in the wrong part of England. But he's born on a US army base there. He has an American father, Don McAfee, and a British mother, Joan Williams. So John ends up actually being raised in Salem in Virginia, and from an early age, he has this dual identity. He considers himself both British and American. At 15, his father has been this abusive alcoholic. He dies by suicide. Obviously, that trauma is going to affect John's life, big time. Now, it's alleged, and do I believe this? I kind of do, but it's alleged that John actually shot and killed his father, and he staged it look like a suicide. That might sound outlandish, but as I cover more of John's life, you'll probably agree at the end of the episode that he definitely did do that. So John goes on in 1967 to earn a bachelor's degree in mathematics. So he is a very smart guy. John is smart. He begins pursuing a doctorate in mathematics in Louisiana. He's expelled in 68. He's due to pursuing a relationship with an undergrad student who later became his wife. So he leaves university. He has a lot of good jobs, even though he's expelled. He starts with NASA. He's a programmer at NASA. He then goes on to UNIVAC.
In 68, that's when they're putting the man on the moon.
Exactly. So he was there for the landing. He was in office for the landing.
Or did they put the man on the moon? All right, so he's working at NASA during the space program. That's right.
But so he goes on to start at UNIVAC, then Xerox. He's head of operating system architect, then Computer Science Corporation. He's a software consultant. He's at a few places. He winds up in 1986 in Lockheed, of course, huge company. When he's at Lockheed, he encounters something called the Brain computer virus, which kind of led him to develop the first commercial antivirus software. Now, just to talk about Brain briefly, because it is quite interesting and it was widespread, but its background is a bit odd. There's basically these two Pakistani brothers, and they've developed medical software, and it keeps getting pirated. Everyone is just passing around floppy disks with their medical software for free.
Stop. Floppy disks, for those of you younger users. Back in the early 80s, there was no such thing as a hard drive. A floppy disk was a piece of magnetic material, not unlike tape that you'd have in a cassette tape or in a reel-to-reel, but they put it in a flat saucer-like thing inside of a plastic container. You'd stick it in a drive, the drive would spin it, and access your data. You would boot up your computer with one floppy drive and store data on another floppy drive. And then they came up with a hard drive. But floppy drives existed then in a smaller sense, in a larger capacity, back into the early 90s, and eventually were replaced by compact discs, also circular and spun with your data. Floppy drives can be found at the Smithsonian Institution on level 2.
So like a Wikipedia article there. Now I won't
you're so young. You never worked with one of those computers that you had to boot up with a floppy drive.
True. Just a bit after though. But now I won't get into a lot about the virus, but really it propagated way too quickly than the creators thought it would, and it basically caused computers to slow to a crawl. So it was very, very irritating to have. So John encountered this at work at Lockheed, and he thought about it, and then he's like, I think I know how to remove that. And so he creates something called Virus Scan. It's a tool he developed. And so did he give it away for free? No, of course not. He started to sell it. And so he founded a company called McAfee Associates Incorporated, which of course sold Virus Scan.
So before you keep going, so Brad, today, I mean, we're decades later. Right now, SaferNet's got antivirus software in it. Is it like McAfee's antivirus software, or is it more sophisticated?
Oh, it's much more sophisticated. But back then, when they started this, it was he was just trying to stop a couple of minor little viruses. So everybody's kind of keeping up with times. But yes, SaferNet is highly sophisticated because it's we talk about it as a 3-in-1. So we have a VPN that encrypts all your traffic. We have a virus protection that stops all viruses within that VPN. And then we have 200 internet controls. And so we cover the three major portions of what cybersecurity should be about and keeping our clients safe. Now, what I find interesting is that he's definitely starting out correct. I mean, I'm intrigued by the story because I want to know what's going on with McAfee. But he starts out trying, other than getting expelled, he's trying to figure out how to do things right. So what happens?
Yeah. So I mean, the McAfee Associates does start out well. I mean, they are protecting a lot of early 1990s computers. I mean, protecting millions of computers. They partner with hardware manufacturers to pre-install McAfee software on new PCs. I know that definitely continued up into the late 2000s. I'm not too sure is it still going on.
I got a brand new Dell sitting on my desk right now. In fact, I'm using it, and every day it goes, can I install McAfee? I'll install it for free.
But they secure contracts with businesses, government agency to provide kind of what they feel are enterprise level antivirus solutions. So by 1990, John is making $5 million a year. In 1990, I mean, $5 million a year now is huge, but I mean, in 1990, the guy's making a lot of money. However, in 1994, we start seeing the cracks in John from here. But in 1994, John resigns from the company. He sells his stake for $100 million. Now, in later years, John distanced himself heavily from the antivirus software that bore his name and criticizes it very publicly in very funny ways. I'll touch on that. But yeah, McAfee Antivirus, as it stands now, since probably 94 onwards, is absolutely terrible. It's considered bloatware. It slows down your computer, doesn't do a lot of protecting. If you have it, please uninstall it. You will save your computer. Do not keep it on your computer by any means. It is horrifically bad. There's actually viruses that are easier to get rid of than McAfee. It's just brutal. So John goes on to found something called Tribal Voice and develops an application, called Powwow, which is one of the first internet messaging applications. And now John, I mean, you can probably guess by the fact he called his last product Powwow, he gets into kind of the hippie era of his life. So John in 2000 moves to Colorado. He opens a yoga and meditation retreat there. Within that year, he authors 4 books on yoga and meditation. Then, he's doing this for a few years. 2008 comes and the financial crash, of course. This really hits John's fortune. I mean, he's a lot of investments and things. It doesn't go well for him. So 2008, he moves to Belize. He's seeking this quieter and more affordable lifestyle. However, this is the exact point where John McAfee just goes off the wall. So he's in Belize, okay, and he's focused on drug research. He claims he can develop herbal antibiotics from jungle plants. So he basically has a mansion and he builds a laboratory on it, on this property. So he surrounds it with armed guards, very young women who are probably paid for, and he just kind of pursues this very eccentric and hedonistic lifestyle. He digs, this is one of the worst parts for me. He digs trenches around the mansion and he fills them with human waste to deter intruders or authorities from entering. I don't need to explain what the human waste is there, you can guess, but it's just atrocious, right? It's crazy. Now, he clashes a lot with local authorities, as you can imagine, over illegal activity, including weapons possession. John is armed to the teeth. The guy has RPGs everywhere. He's out there. And drug manufacturing. So yeah, he's a laboratory in his basement mansion where he thinks he's, I don't know, making the fountain of youth or something. He's then John's claimed that the officials are trying to extort him. He's been targeted unfairly. The gang suppression unit actually raided his mansion in 2012, but there's no charges filed. 2012.
And this is still in Belize, right?
Yeah, this is all in Belize. And 2012, his neighbor, Gregory Fall, was found shot dead. John is named as a person of interest, but was basically denied involvement. John definitely shot him, in my opinion. So he fled Belize eventually. He claimed that he's been framed by corrupt officials. He may have been, but he was definitely up to shenanigans at the same time. So then John illegally enters Guatemala. He's seeking political asylum due to his alleged persecution. And, he's publicly announced this intention to seek asylum, and he expresses that he's afraid what would happen if he returns to Belize. So December 5th, 2012, Guatemala authorities actually arrest him for illegal entry. His asylum request is completely denied, but he still tried to get in. So he's detained pending deportation. While in detention, John says he suffers 2 minor heart attacks. However, later his lawyer says they were actually just anxiety attacks, so definitely not the same thing, but still kind of serious. Few days later, December 12th, John is deported back to the US. It's very weird to hear someone deported back to the US, but deported back to the US, and he arrives in Miami, Florida. And at this point, he begins traveling all over the US.
Wow. So here's a guy that starts an antivirus, and his only competition when he starts his antivirus company was Norton, because Norton came out in the 80s. So you got Norton and you got McAfee, and then he's so successful, and then he goes off the rails. I mean, he sounds like not Hugh Hefner, what's the guy that built the big? Well, I can't think of the big albatross airplane that hit.
The guy created this. The guy thought he was sick, right?
Yeah. What was? Why can't I think of his name? Brad,
no,
help me out. The guy, the recluse, the rich recluse. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's SaferNet, your issue here. If you really want good antivirus protection as well as VPN, keep the bad guys out. Go to SaferNet.com. SaferNet.com. Defend against all kinds of online threats with internet filters, VPN, antivirus. It's all there. SaferNet.com. Okay. McAfee gets stuck back in the United States after living a peaceful life in Belize.
Yes, in his crazy laboratory. So June 2013, and this is actually where because I was following John's social media and things for years, and this is how I and a lot of others kind of got to know the kind of person he was. June 2013, he uploads a parody video to YouTube called How to Uninstall McAfee Virus. And so in it, he criticizes the antivirus software, saying it's doing nothing. However, when he's doing this, he's snorting a white powder in the video, and he's slowly being stripped of his clothes by very scantily clad women. So this is just sums up who John was as a person at this point. Yeah, so he ends up actually becoming this very vocal about cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin and Monero. He's making big predictions like Bitcoin 1 million by 2020. Not there, but it's not.
It's 100 grand.
Yeah.
For air.
He's later accused of pump and dump schemes. So he would promote this kind of low-ranking coin, drive up the value, and then sell it off at a profit. If you ever look at cryptocurrency influencers, I would say 90% of them actually do this pump and dump schemes. They're massive in cryptocurrency. He's founding a lot of tech startups. He's also just becoming involved in them. 2016 and 2020, John runs for president of the United States under the banner of the Libertarian Party. His campaign is focusing on privacy rights and government surveillance, and probably more white powder knowing John at this point. 5th of October 2020, John is arrested in Spain at request of the US Department of Justice for tax evasion. So all this money he's been making, he filed nothing. It's tax evasion. So he's arrested in jail, and it's pending extradition back to the US. Now, John, because it's John McAfee, he can tweet within jail. I don't know how he has a phone. but he was sending a lot of tweets when he was in prison. Now, but this is where it gets. If we like conspiracy theories, this is where it starts.
How old is he at this time when he's in prison?
Well, he's born in 45, and so this is 2020.
Okay.
But so he tweets one day. He goes,
75. He's 75.
Yeah, and he's still going. I mean, he's a lot of energy for 75. But he tweets one day, he said, "If I'm ever found hanging, it will be no fault of mine." Then he tweets, "If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked." Lastly, he tweets, "Know that if I hang myself a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine." So with that in mind, a few days later, June 23rd, 2021, John is found dead in a Spanish prison cell, suicide by hanging. Right? I'll make of that what you will. I mean, obviously, look, John had claimed, like, I'm not going to die this way, and he died that way. So there was, of course, a lot of speculation around this. But John, you know, he had this life of controversy. He was fleeing countries, evading authorities, doing who knows what in this laboratory, bizarre antics everywhere, filling a trench full of things. But he became this like cult-like figure. People loved him because following his Twitter, you were just waiting for his next tweet because he would say something insane. And he was this mix of kind of paranoia, genius, unpredictability. And so John did contribute a lot to cybersecurity. You know, he kind of helped create this antivirus industry. But he's always going to remember this kind of genius, madman, provocateur. He's a fine line between genius and madman. But yeah, that's John McAfee. They need to make a movie about that. He deserves a movie because his life is out there.
What a crazy life. Absolutely crazy life.
I had no idea he had sold off so early. I mean, that's what's amazing. Yeah. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, and he could have stayed on, but.
Did anybody think what's the guy's name that I was thinking about? He was a total recluse, and he helped build that big airplane.
I'm going to look it up because it's the it's Hugh something, right?
No, what? No, Hugh Hefner was Playboy.
Howard
Hughes. That's
Howard.
Howard. Yeah. Well, there you go. So it sounds like McAfee and Howard Hughes could have been good friends.
Yeah.
And wow, I love this story. Everybody listening, it is true. McAfee Antivirus is a disaster on your computer. SaferNet is a way better choice, but Brad didn't say that. I mean, it's not. We don't like to say bad things about people, but it is a hog on your computer. It's tough. SaferNet,
it does. It bogs you down. Yes,
it really does. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
wow. Any final comments, Brad, on Mr. McAfee?
You know, I find it fascinating because, you know, I never knew about McAfee the person. I just knew about McAfee the software, and you know, in the beginning of my career, we used McAfee, and we just had one heck of a problem with it. It did what we're talking about, but I didn't know that he went nuts and just kind of went off the rails. I can't even imagine putting excrement around your mansion to keep people away. Can you imagine being there? That just seems like the worst of the worst.
It smells like a big problem to me.
But in my mind, we're all about keeping people safe. How do we keep people safe? And, you know, we live our life on our computers, on our internet, and just in doing this, we're in 3 different locations. We're doing it over the internet. We live our life on the internet. Why in the world wouldn't we want the best protection? And that's why what we do is we operate in the cloud. We operate on every endpoint device and in the cloud to be able to protect the entire stream of communication so that all activity is encrypted. And we're all operating encrypted to be safe. And I think every endpoint device in the world should have SaferNet on it, just period.
McAfee could have used that in his own Belize mansion. Maybe they wouldn't have found him. Thanks to SaferNet for supporting our efforts to bring these stories to your ears. And now, I mean, this is a story about somebody that everybody knows about, McAfee Antivirus. So it was a great story, Patrick. Appreciate you bringing it to us. Check out SaferNet today, safernet.com, safernet.com. Get secured today. Until the next time, click only on the attachments you trust from those you trust and delete the rest, or you may become the next victim of a digital desperado.
This episode of the Digital Desperados podcast is brought to you by SaferNet VPN, found online at safernet.com.
Calling all entrepreneurs and parents. Protecting those we love on the internet is important. Safeguard your ventures and loved ones with SaferNet VPN. Our cybersecurity app keeps you safe on any device. Shield your business from cyber threats while ensuring a family-friendly online environment. Simplify your digital life with SaferNet VPN today. Get secured now. Sign up at safernet.com. That's safernet.com.